Hi everybody, Steven here and Loki. If you want to see how to deploy a workload domain inside VMware Cloud Foundation, stick around. The both of us are going to show you that. Right? Right. See you in a bit. Hi everyone, thanks for sticking around. Loki's not with me right now. I figured I'd give him a break. Okay, so we're going to cover how to deploy a virtual infrastructure workload domain in VMware Cloud Foundation. I'm running 5.0, but it's pretty much the same for all the other stuff. I'm still waiting for a copy of 5.2. Anybody out there that can help me out, please. I've been running ragged trying to get this. Anyways, doesn't really matter. If you can help me out, please let me know. You can reach out to me to LinkedIn. Anyways, so we're going to take a look at how to deploy it. I do run into a problem with deploying it, but you have to stick around and see how I fix it, okay? The other thing I always like to throw at this point here, hey, please support the channel. It's so simple. Just click on that subscribe button, totally free. Another way to support the channel is share the videos, and also I do have super thanks enabled. So totally up to you, but let's get to it. Okay, everybody. Before we begin, what we need to do is add in some hosts or commission some hosts. So I'm over on my dashboard. This is one way to do it. I'm going to click on commission host. There's a laundry list of stuff here. You got to make sure that's set up. Like for example, you have to have proper forward and reverse lookups. You must have your NTP set up. You must make sure the hard drives don't have any partitions, etc. You folks can read through that. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to say proceed. Now it's asking me, do I want to add in a new host, right? Or do I want to import from a JSON file? Maybe you've got a host inside a JSON file. Maybe I'll do a video on that later. So let's just add in a new host manually. So my first host here is going to be sa.esxi05.vclass.local. It's asking me what type of storage this host has. I'm going to pick vSAN. When I pick vSAN, it's going to ask, is this going to be like a local vSAN or some kind of HCI mesh? I'll probably do a video on HCI mesh at some point, but for now, we'll just say local VCI or vSAN. Network pool here. Again, I've got my network pool. Now, the network pool I'm using is the same pool I used for my management domain. And that's going to give me stuff like vMotion and vSAN IP addresses. You may make your own network pool for different workload domains. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to utilize what I've got. Now it's asking me who the user is for the host. Again, it's going to be root. And I'll type in the password. Actually, I probably typed in the wrong one there. And then I'm going to click on add. And you'll see down here, it added the host. I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. So I'm going to probably speed this up. Okay, so you can see I added in 3 hosts. At a minimum, I need 2 hosts to add an additional workload domain. I got 3, so what the heck, right? So I've got hosts 5, 6, and 7. Now notice over here it says it's not validated yet. So I need to validate this thumbprint, right? And you can go in. There's a couple of methods to do it. Again, if you don't want to do the command line, you can go into the DCUI of the ESXi host, the direct console user interface, and within there, I think it's under system information, you can pull up the DCUI if you are, or the thumbprint as you want. I'm going to go over and say, yep, I validated all those thumbprints. And I'm going to say validate all. At this point, it's going to check those hosts. It's going to do some basic validation like NTP, DNS, all that kind of stuff. So if there's issues there with that, it would pop up at this point. I'm going to probably speed this up now. Okay, so it's validated successful. I'm going to click on next. And at that point, it just gives me a summary. I'm going to click on commission. And at that point, it's adding in the hosts. Let's just expand our little workflow down here. Maybe that's a bit too much, but there it is over here, adding in the host. So I'll go in here, and you can see it's actually running through various tasks. I'm going to probably let this run. It'll probably take a few minutes, so I'll probably speed this up now. Okay, so it looks like it's finished, all successful. If I scroll down, again, everything looks good, no problems. The first 2 says it's not applicable. Applicable to skip the host, dissociate host from network pool. Again, so these are some tasks I didn't have to do. By the way, the refresh button's your best friend. So basically, there's my host. They're actually added in now. So my next thing is to actually, actually, it's still showing over here under activating. So let's give it a little bit of a break here and just wait kind of thing, okay? Okay, so we see here's the 4 hosts. Looks like it's active right now. They haven't been assigned. So if I go to assigned hosts, you'll see that my 4 hosts, the first 4 were assigned to my management domain. Again, that was, I did on that first video of setting it up, VCF, and these are unassigned hosts. So now I'm ready to actually create a workload domain. I can actually go into here under dashboard, and I can say add a workload domain, or I could go, let's go into workload domains. You'll see my management workload domain. I can click on add workload domain. All right, so let's do that now, and I'm just going to stop the recording and start it up again. Okay, so let's jump into adding a workload domain. I like to break up my recordings for those who've been watching, just in case something happens. I don't have to do it all over again. I can, just jump in from where I left off. Anyways, let's add our workload domain. I'm going to add a virtual infrastructure workload domain. It's going to ask me, what's the primary storage going to be, the principal storage for that workload domain? So that'll be the default storage. You can actually add other storage afterwards, like, Fiber Channel, VMFS, or whatever, iSCSI. I'm going to pick vSAN because that's my primary storage. You can see your options over here. I'm going to click begin. It's going to ask me, what do I want to call this workload domain? I'm going to call it, I don't know, workload domain-B, right? I don't got much of an imagination. What's my organization name? Tech-unglued. And do I want this workload domain to have its own single sign-on domain, or do I want to join it to my management? In other words, like in enhanced linked mode, right? So depending on what you want, I'm just going to join it in enhanced linked mode. Here it talks about Lifecycle Manager images. There's none available. Don't worry, I've got videos on Lifecycle Manager. We'll leave that alone for now. I'll click on next. It's asking me, what do I want to call the cluster for this new workload domain? Again, I'll call it maybe workload domain-B-cluster. Whatever, okay? Call it something that makes sense, and I made some really horrible typos there. Cluster. Okay, I'm going to click next. Now it's going to ask me, remember, it's going to spin up a vCenter server and an NSX environment for this, okay? So it's asking me, what's the vCenter server fully qualified domain name? I need forward and reverse lookup set up. Right here, this is the one I have. So site A, vCenter server appliance -01B. You'll see the IP address automatically filled in because it did a reverse lookup. It did a lookup on that, and it filled it in for me. It'll see my default gateway, which is correct. Then it's asking me for the root password for this vCenter server. So I'll type in, this is the root password, right? Your root password. And confirm the root password. There we go. All right. So that's my vCenter server. When I click next, the next screen it's talking about is networking. This is NSX. So remember, this workload domain is going to have its own NSX management environment. So that means 3 NSX appliances clustered together, kind of like as one. So it's going to ask me for the name of the first NSX manager, and mine is going to be called, oh, where's my paper here? Let me just get that out. Mine is going to be called, my first one is going to be called site A-NSX MGR-01B.bclass.local. This IP should fill out. Yep, it did. Then it's going to ask me for the second one. And the second one will be 2B. And this IP should fill out. It did. Then it's going to ask me for the third one, and that should be 3B. So I've got my DNS already set up for this stuff. I'm not showing you that, okay? So I've already got DNS forward and reverse lookup set up for this. Now it's asking me for the cluster default name. Remember, there's 3 managers. If you're not familiar with this, watch my NSX manager series, okay? Or my NSX series. I talk all about this. So this is the cluster fully qualified domain name. And I call this, I think it's just NSX manager B-B. And it should, there, it picked up the address. So I can connect to this fully qualified domain name with the browser, and it will pin me to one of these managers. I'm going to scroll down. It's asking me for the password for the NSX manager admin user. So let me type in that password. Let me retype it in. Now it's asking me for the audit password. It says here I can skip that, so I'll skip it. Now it's asking me for the VLAN ID, right? So my overlay networking for this workload domain, this is the VTAPs. This is the VLAN for the VTAPs. Again, if you don't know what VTAPs are, watch my NSX stuff, right? So mine in this case is 11, VLAN 11. It could be a separate VLAN from your management domain VTAPs. That's probably what it's good for. But anyways, mine are the same. Then IP address allocation. Do I want to do DHCP or a static pool? And this is this cluster with a static pool cannot be stretched across available zones. Okay, we'll talk about stuff like that later. Anyway, stretching, I'll probably do a separate video. Then it says create new static pool. So the pool name, I'll call it whatever, workload domain 02 VTAP pool. Sounds good to me. My description and whatever, workload domain VTAPs, call it whatever you want. This is going to be the CIDR of my workload domain, right? Actually, this should be VLAN 12. And my IP range will be from here. So this CIDR is basically the subnet that my VTAPs are on its second workload domain. Here's my addresses for the VTAPs. That's the range of it, okay, that I've entered in. If I scroll down, and now it's going to ask me the gateway for those VTAPs, okay? So these 3 hosts are going to be on their own VTAP subnet, which kind of makes sense. So I got my management domain on its own VTAP subnets. These ones are on their own VTAP subnets. Perfect. So this looks good. I'm going to click next. Now it's asking me the vSAN storage parameters. What's the failures to tolerate? Again, I'm just going to go with the default of 1. I didn't click on anything. It just did it on its own. And then vSAN dedupe and compression. Do you want to enable that or not? I'm not going to bother, but it's up to you if you want to enable this or not. Look at my vSAN video when I talk about stuff like that. I'm going to click next. Which host do I want to go in here? I'm going to pick all 3 of the hosts here. Okay? And at that point, I'm going to go next. I'm going to probably have to gray this out. Talks about licensing. So I'm going to probably gray out this whole little section, but from the drop downs, you'll pick your appropriate licenses. So I'm going to grade out now. And then you go next. Gives you, it basically comes in, it shows you kind of the object names. It's sort of like a summary here, right? So I called it workload domain B. The cluster will be workload domain B cluster. This is the vCenter server for it. Here's again the distributed switch information, port groups, all that kind of stuff that it's actually going to create for me. These are the names. So kind of a summary. Then at that point, you got another review. And then at that point, you basically gives me a little bit of information here. I'm going to click on finish. And it's basically validating this. So it's going to go through. It's checked out my hosts. Do I have enough? Yeah, I got enough stuff in there. And at that point, it looks like it's done nothing. But let's bring this workflow up, or the taskbar up. Come on. So here we go. It's creating a workload domain. And then I'm just going to expand this workflow. Sorry. And you can actually see the tasks that are running here. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I'm not doing anything. It's doing that on its own. I'm going to go full screen with that. Here we go. And then you'll see the tasks are actually running on its own right now. I am not going to record this. This could take probably about an hour to 2 hours to do. So I'm just going to stop my recording, and we'll come back and we'll check it out, and we'll see if there's any failures. All right? So, and by the way, hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Help support the channel. Also, hit that like button right now. If you found this slightly bit interesting, please hit that like button. It helps out with the YouTube algorithms, and that's how I get compensated from YouTube for providing this free service for you guys. So we'll be right back. All right, everybody. So this ran for a while. I kind of walked away, came back to it, and we can see it came up with an error. Now, I've actually seen this before. So it said, add NSX Manager VMs to distributed firewall exclusion list. And it comes up and tells me the VMs was not found in the NSX response. Please deploy the VMs first. But it looks like it's having a problem with the second and third. Maybe the first one's okay, right? So it tells it's not found. Please deploy the VMs first. Now, one of the things I do when I'm troubleshooting this stuff is, I'll log into the vCenter server. So let me log into my vCenter server. And this is the vCenter server of the management domain, which is going to have my second vCenter server, and those additional NSX managers. So when we log in over there, we actually see under this resource pool for my SDC management, I basically have an NSX Manager 01. That's for my management domain. Then I see as NSX Manager 01B, 02B, and 03B. So they are deployed. And I do see my vCenter server. This is my vCenter server for that workload domain. So again, they all have the letter B at the end for my workload domain B. So I see that they're actually deployed. It looks like this one here, this vCenter server is not powered on. I'll just leave that alone for now. Now, what it's basically saying, it says add NSX Manager to the firewall exclusion list. So let's connect to my NSX Manager, okay? And let's go into, this is my NSX Manager in my management domain, side A-NSX Manager-01. And then I'll log in as my admin, type in the password. And for whatever reason, it's having a hard time adding these appliances to the NSX firewall exclusion. So I'm just going to go skip here, and I'm going to go, and I'm a big fan of this this dark mode. I'm going to go into my security, and I'm going to go into my distributed firewall, and then under actions here, I'm going to go exclusion list. And you'll see there's a group here, an NSX group, and there's servers in that group that will not get any distributed firewall filters applied to them. I talk about that in my distributed firewall environment, right? So you'll see I've got my NSX Manager. I don't know why it's showing up as doubles here. If I click on refresh, there's a couple doubles here. But bottom line, I don't see those machines in there. I'm going to close this. Let's cancel this. Let's go to my inventory. Fortunately, this is a thing I can get around fairly easy. Let's go to inventory. Let's go to groups. You'll see there is that VCF created virtual machine groups for the exceptions. I'm going to click on edit. Okay, actually, no, I'm going to say members, and then over here, my members, and you'll actually see there's some, I've actually got my members here, and you'll actually see they're actually in this group, which is, sorry, let me cancel that. Sorry about that, folks. I got a little distracted there. So I'm going to click on members. Notice there's 4 members. I'll click on 4, and it's showing me there's 4 computers selected, right? You do not see the NSX managers I just selected. So let's select the manager 1B, 2B, and where's the 3B? I'm not sure why it's showing up as doubles and stuff, or maybe it's just an interface issue here. Anyways, so I'm going to select them manually. I'm going to go apply, right? And I'm going to say save. Okay, that's done. They've been added to the exclusion list. So if I go view members again, it should say, again, I should see those listed in here. Yeah, the 1B, 2B, and 3B. Excellent. So great. Looks like it's in progress right over here. And there we go as success. So now let me go back to this SDDC manager. And this is kind of the nice thing here. I'll go back to my workload here and click on the restart task here to get that task going again. So I'll click on restart, which is kind of nice. I like about these workflows here. You can actually restart them. You don't have to start right from scratch again, which would be a drag, right? And I'm going to open that up fully. And then this shouldn't take too long. But again, I'll hit my refresh button every now and then. I'm just going to let this thing run. So it's added that NSX Manager to the distributed firewall. So it should actually pass that once it kind of gets through there. There we go. It passed it. So that's good. Now it's down to doing these other tasks here, which I'll just let it run for a while, okay? And we'll come back and see what happens. Okay, everyone, we are back, and we could see that it completed. Took probably about an hour and a half, maybe a little bit longer than that to complete. I didn't stick around to watch. I just let it do its thing, but all the tasks are all done now. Let's get rid of this thing. Let's go back to here. So you can see it finally completed, except for that little hiccup that we saw. If I go back to here under my dashboard, you'll see I got 2 workload domains, my management domain and my virtual infrastructure domain. I basically have just one. If I click on that, what do we see? Again, we'll see my management domain here and my workload domain that I deployed. Under my workload domain, under services, if I go in there, you'll see there's my vCenter server for that workload domain. There's my NSX Manager. That's the cluster, the NSX Manager cluster. You don't see the 3 nodes there. That's the cluster virtual IP that I can connect to. Let's go into my vCenter server for my management domain. Actually, let's go back to here. Let's go back to workload domains. There's my management domain. Let's go there. Let's go to services. Here's the vCenter server for that. Let's click on that, and it should ask me to log in. Just give it a few seconds. And here we go. Now, what I want to point out is here's my the resource pool for my management domain, because I did anyways. Over here, you see that I got my NSX Manager -01 Site A. So my management domain has its own NSX Manager cluster. Now, if you've been watching my videos, I set it up to only deploy one NSX Manager. My workload domains didn't give me that choice. It deployed 3 managers, and you see that right here. Okay, so there's my 3 managers, and these 3 managers are all running on my management domain host. So if I select that and I go to well, right over here, if I see it says it's Site A ESXi01, and then even when you look here, you see my vCenter server in my management domain, and then this is my vCenter server for the new workload domain. Again, they're all running on the hosts inside the management domain. So my workload domain, which is up here, let's actually minimize this. This is because I joined my workload domain to the same single sign-on domain as my management domain. Too many domains. It's in enhanced link mode. So if I expand that, you actually see there's the cluster. You see there's my cluster, and there's some hosts. I got some alerts on here. I'm probably running on a little low on resources and stuff like that. Let's see what it says. Registration of third party. Yeah, okay, it's probably because these are nested hosts. Okay, I can just reset that. So it doesn't like that I'm running vSAT on unsupported hardware. So it's barking about that. So anyways, you'll notice there's the 3 hosts I added. There's no VMs under there. All those management VMs are running in the management domain. Anyways, I think that basically covers it. Thanks for sticking around and watching. Leave your comments and questions down below. Hey, please support the channel by clicking onto the subscribe button. It's totally free. Just click that button, really easy. And if you want to, I also have super thanks enabled. Totally up to you. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye for now.